Hi, I'm Nancy Brown, Chief Executive Officer of the American Heart Association, and I'm so honored to be here today with Dr. Mitch Elkind, who's beginning his term as President of the American Heart Association, and with Bert Scott, who's now serving his second year in his role as AHA Chairman of the Board. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you, Nancy.
I know there's a special bond between the two of you that goes back many, many years. And Bert, I wondered if you could share that story with our listeners today.
Actually, that bond goes back almost 2 decades now. 19 years ago, this month, actually, my wife, Kathleen, passed away. And as a tribute to her, we set up a Kathleen Y. Scott Fellowship Program. We found a young, effective, bright neurologist to be the first recipient of that fund. So here we are 19 years forward, and Mitch and I are now working together at the AHA, helping to lead the organization. And I couldn't be happier to have him as a partner.
That's what you call serendipity, to see the paths coming together. Mitch, tell us about that grant. What did you feel like when you received it, and what did you do with the scholarship?
Well, thanks, Nancy. That grant provided me with the funding to explore the role of inflammatory markers in stroke risk in the Northern Manhattan study, which is our cohort study in New York City among whites, blacks, and Hispanics. And we found that inflammation does contribute to stroke risk, which is a finding that's become even more relevant in light of the work that I did subsequently on infection as a stroke risk factor, and particularly now in the setting of the recent pandemic. But that fellowship helped launch my research career and made me a lifelong volunteer of the American Heart Association. And now, of course, the icing on the cake is that I get to serve as president with Bert as chairman of the board.
It is incredible. And Mitch, we're going to talk a little bit more about your distinguished career in science and as a clinician. Tell us about your family. Tell us about your connection to heart disease and stroke. Help us get to know you better.
Yeah, so I grew up just outside of New York City in a city called New Rochelle, which happens to be the home of Rob and Laura Petrie from the Dick Van Dyke Show, if people will remember that show at all. And my wife, Rachel, is also from New Rochelle, and in fact, we were friends growing up. I even coached her soccer team, and we were on the ski team together. And my father is a specialist in kidney disease, but during his training, he noted that a lot of people that he was taking care of were having headaches. They were getting migraines. And so he decided to do a fellowship in migraine. And he worked during that time with Oliver Sacks, who people may know as a great popularizer and writer about neurological conditions. And so growing up, I was always surrounded by people who were deeply interested in the brain. And in medical school, I just found neurology to be the most interesting specialty. Witnessing the ways in which brain disease affects human experiences, I found fascinating, but also humbling. And then during my fellowship in stroke, my mentor, Ralph Sacco, who is a great AHA volunteer and a former president of the American Heart Association, encouraged me to get involved with the New York City board. And it was such a passionate, committed, and friendly group that I was hooked, and I've been involved ever since.
Lucky for us, that is the case. And Bert, we had a chance a year ago at this exact time to talk to you about your background. I think it's important to remind people how you became involved in the AHA. You have such a compelling story, and you've made such an impact on the issues that really matter.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy, for that opportunity. First, my dad died from heart disease at an early age, actually in his early 50s. So that sparked my interest in understanding the impact of heart disease and stroke on people of color, frankly. What really motivated me subsequent to that was I lost my wife, as I mentioned earlier, in 2001 to hemorrhagic stroke. So that really stoked a significant fire in me to continue to be an active volunteer and donor, frankly.
Absolutely. And we're so grateful to you for all you've done. And I actually remember meeting you back when you first became involved in the American Heart Association. And you have the same passion now that you had back then. And the issues that mattered to you then are still part of your platform now. And we're so grateful to you for that. Mitch, you mentioned Dr. Ralph Sacco, of course, an incredible force in the American Heart Association, an amazing leader. And Ralph was the first neurologist to serve as president of the AHA, and you now are the second neurologist to serve as president of the AHA. It's so wonderful that you and Ralph are connected so closely, but it's also so wonderful for the association's leadership to represent all of the areas that matter to the organization. Tell us why, from your point of view, why is having a neurologist as president important to the AHA, and what do you hope to do and bring during your presidency?
Yeah, well, thank you, Nancy, for the chance to talk about that a little bit. So, I'd like to think that my combination of experience and skills, not just neurology, but epidemiology as well, is exactly where the AHA as an organization is right now. And now that we're living through the shock of the pandemic, my training as an epidemiologist really comes to the forefront. And COVID is an infectious disease, and infectious disease, in a sense, is where all epidemiology begins. Core to epidemiology, I would say, has always been the study of disparities, why some people do get adequate health care and others do not. And I think the pandemic has made clear that the disparities faced by Blacks and other communities of color in the United States is really tragic, and something that we, the organization of the AHA, can do something about.
Yeah. So well articulated, Mitch. And I often think to myself, the right person at the right time. I mean, your experience as an epidemiologist and as a neurologist will be so critical to us this year as we continue to learn how the AHA can be most impactful and most helpful in light of the global pandemic. And, speaking of the global pandemic, Bert, it's no secret that the AHA has been impacted. We are embracing the world around us with a new strategy to move the organization forward. And I would love your perspective on how you see that the AHA is managed during the pandemic, and what special opportunities or impact areas would you like to see moving forward?
Thank you again, Nancy. First of all, let me give credit to the entire AHA staff. My job is much easier because of the hard work and direction that you guys provide us. And in this pandemic, one of the things I'm most proud of is how quickly the AHA has been able to pivot, to introduce new programs, to leverage current platforms, and do all the things that I think have been important to those that we serve in all communities. We didn't just begin to build some of these programs in. Our research platform is critical to us, and the $2.5 million contribution that we made, grants that we made to people who specifically focused on COVID and the impact it has on the cardiovascular system and the brain has been tremendous. Our Empowered to Serve platform has served us well in working with churches to help people manage being homebound or providing content so they have a better understanding of what COVID-19 might mean to them. Health Equity Fund has been used in order to foster programs in communities around healthcare. All of those programs have done an amazing job of helping the AHA stay in the forefront of this and be a real leader at a time when we need leadership in the healthcare community. In addition to that, we found some innovative ways to fundraise, virtual core vitae, heart balls, youth programs, virtual heart walks. I mean, all of those things have allowed us to pivot effectively, continue to raise money, and get our content to people in a way that allows them to understand the impact all of this is having on their lives and keeps us in the forefront as a trusted advisor at a critical time.
I can say on behalf of all of the staff, we are so grateful to the two of you, to the AHA board, and to all the volunteers and donors throughout the country who have really rallied together with us to make these virtual events and activities happen. And it's incredible what has been accomplished. And I think it's with that same spirit of what can be done in a new environment where there's less travel and a lot of uncertainty about the virus and what's going to happen in the next few months. The two of you will be leading the American Heart Association at this exact time. And I think our viewers would love to know, what do you think can be accomplished this year? What are your dreams and aspirations for the organization, and how can people help? So Bert, let me start with you.
There are four very important things for me. The first thing is making sure that we never lose sight of the research mission here. So anything that I can do to continue to fast forward and raise money in fundraising that's going to continue to make sure our research franchise is what it needs to be. The second thing is health disparities continues to be at the top of my list, and I'm very focused on making sure that what we do as an organization serves communities that have been underserved for a long time, whether they're urban or rural or on Indian reservations. It is important that the programs we develop serve those communities well, and we actually make a difference. The third thing is really helping the board be more of an ally, more of a support to the AHA as they try to navigate the fiscal difficulties we find ourselves in. And then the fourth thing is I want to be an advocate for the AHA. At every meeting I'm in, every place I'm in, I want to continue to be an advocate and build followership for the AHA, because that's how you build a sustaining organization.
Yeah. What an incredible list. Thank you for that, Bert, and thank you for all of your support. Mitch, what's on your mind?
Well, Nancy, I would say there's no question that the current changes in our world have impacted our organization and will have an influence on my goals as president. The pandemic and the associated economic crisis, I think, challenge us to focus on the most impactful activities and to be as smart and efficient as possible. But at the same time, I think that these crises really make our work more important than ever. So my fondest wish would be that we can look back years from now and say that the AHA during this year met the challenges posed by this pandemic, which really threatens everything that we care about, and responded with leadership and energy and integrity to save lives and improve the quality of life for all, and particularly for those who are most vulnerable. At the same time, on the scientific front, I hope that under my leadership, the AHA will embrace fully the community of basic, translational, clinical, and population neuroscience researchers, because neurologists and neuroscientists are brilliant, passionate people, and neuroscience itself is in many ways the next frontier in medicine and biology in general. We're just beginning to unlock the mysteries of the brain. This organ carries all our human thoughts, joys, our abilities, our fears. It's everything about who we are. And I think it's going to take a lot more years of study to really understand how it all works, of course. And I would be thrilled to watch the AHA, with all of its resources and talent, tackle the thorny issues of brain health. And so I would love to feel that I contributed to that process as well.
I know I look forward to working closely with both of you to make these dreams and the strategies and the strategic plan of AHA come to life. I have one last fun question. I know the answer to this personally, but I think our viewers would love to know. What are your hobbies? Like, what do you do when you're not volunteering with the AHA? But when you get to do something fun, what do you do? Bert?
Well, I have a short list. I think Nancy, I have 5 grandchildren, and any second I can find is get to their cities and spend time with them. That's at the top of my list. I also play golf, poorly, but I play. And I've become, during this, I've always been a reader, but during this time that I've had more isolation, I've become a much more avid reader. So those are probably my significant habits. Watching sports is gone, so I have to fill my time with something else, Nancy. So that's what I would say I do in my spare time.
Wonderful. Mitch, how about you?
I have 2 sons, Zachary and Liam, and nothing makes me happier than to just be with those 2 guys. So Zachary is a theater director, and Liam is a terrific actor. And so when they were little, they used to put on shows together, and now we all really enjoy going to the theater, either in New York City or wherever else we end up. And then when we're not doing that kind of stuff, we generally like to be outside hiking. In fact, our favorite times together have been hiking on the west coast of Ireland, from one end to the next. And that's something that we really look forward to doing again after this pandemic passes. So that would be my favorite thing to do.
That's wonderful. Well, I just want to close this video again by thanking both of you for your incredible years of leadership. And I truly mean it when I say that we are so fortunate to have you at the helm of the American Heart Association during this time of challenge, but I would also say during this moment of differentiation. There is a wonderful opportunity for the AHA to continue to demonstrate what we have shown the world we can do over almost 100 years, and certainly since March when the pandemic became such a force in the United States. We have great things to offer. The foundation of our science, our grassroots, and our brand will be multiplied by your vision and by your passionate commitment and by the followership that you have among volunteers and donors and the staff of the AHA. So thank you both. We look forward to a great year ahead, and we'll go get them.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.